Yeah. Oh, Katie. So, we had not talked about any of this yet. Okay. Well, give me just a second because I don't believe I recorded for the first part of this. So I'm going to go back so that anybody at home can catch up on this stuff. And we can do the rest of it here in just a moment. And suddenly, there we go. So that's the section. That's the terms to know. We talked about all that stuff. And here we are. It's a nice thing about YouTube, being able to just pause it. All right, so the unification of Italy. As you guys are probably aware, the Italian city-states historically were pretty divided places. So the idea of unifying all of them into one country was something that had not really been accomplished since the Roman Empire. So, well, the Roman Empire. But anyways, the idea of having a Italian, Italy for Italians, this nationalistic view, is what's going to eventually lead to unification. Now, there's really three guys involved, but one of them is sort of doing it by proxy. Count Camillo Cavour was the King of Sardinia's prime minister. The King of Sardinia eventually becomes King of Italy. Bless you. And his prime minister, Count Camillo Cavour, is a pretty ingenious politician. He's a real politic, much like Otto von Bismarck will be, much like we talked about, which means that he's what? What is real politic? It has nothing to do with political spectrum. What does it mean?
What was it called again?
Real politic.
You don't use. No.
Should be in your notes. We just talked about it not too long ago. Just as early as yesterday, I believe. Yes, ma'am. Well, yeah, that's kind of what the term comes from. But what is realism in politics? What do you think that means? We're going to be real politicians.
You don't. I don't know. Like anything they do to make is like never stuff like that.
No, that's true. You're not going to necessarily do that. Well, unless it benefits you. Thanks for trying. You're on the right track. That's certainly where it comes from. It's just interpreting what that means exactly for politics. Kind of all politics does, doesn't it? You're right. It's pragmatic politics. A realistic, pragmatic approach to politics. You don't get stuck in ideology. You don't, in fact, consider ideology or morality for that matter. You got to kill 1,000 babies to accomplish what's necessary. You kill 1,000 babies. It's pragmatic. It's a practical approach to politics. You use what tools you have to. Now, of course, they're killing 1,000 babies. Why would you ever need to do that? That's terrible. But I'm just saying that you take morality out of the equation. So, what does this mean for Italy? Well, Camillo Cavour is able to use nationalism. He uses it as a motivation to get people to join him. He uses political maneuverings, occasionally assassinations if need be. He also happens to use Giuseppe Garibaldi, who was a nationalist rebel that had actually successfully conquered southern Italy. The difference between those two is pretty stark, though. Whereas Cavour is cool and calculating, Garibaldi is passionate. Garibaldi, in his red shirts, are basically a populist rebellion against this idea of foreigners controlling Italy. He's kind of brutal. Cavour is able to convince him to step aside and not be king, and instead allow the King of Sardinia to become king, Victor Emmanuel II. And later, if memory serves, he has him killed because he didn't want him to be a threat. Because Garibaldi he didn't really like the King of Sardinia. He did it because he was convinced that he couldn't take the north, essentially. That he didn't have enough of the sway to manage it. And so basically it was hey, instead of splitting apart, let's form one Italy. And so he's like, well, I'm going to go back and I'll eventually be in control of Italy, but it didn't quite work out. But Cavour is able to sort of outmaneuver him, and he uses political enemies as assets. That's actually one of the reasons why Garibaldi did not like Cavour, is because Garibaldi just killed his opponents outright. If there's like a mayor of a town or something that was against him, he'd kill him. Cavour would fold him into a new government, would bribe him or use him however necessary. And so this is kind of a very stark difference, in how their approach is. And again, that's real politics. You don't destroy your tools. It's kind of how it's looked at. Probably the quintessential real politic, though, is the guy we're talking about in Prussia, Otto von Bismarck. First, understand, this is a timeline of the unification of Prussia. Starting with the early 1800s with the formation of the German Confederation. This was done in order to keep Napoleon, or rather, keep France from having such an easy time of conquering Europe again. Going back to the 30 Years' War. You remember that? We talked about the 30 Years' War, this bloody religious war that eventually became sort of a almost world war between the various powers of Europe. And at the end of it, Germany was fragmented into over 100 unique states, 100 different countries. Well, when Napoleon came into power, he was able to steamroll through these weak German states quite easily. So at the Congress of Vienna, they created a new German Confederation, 5 different states that could be stronger. Prussia was the strongest of these states. They had survived and he fought against Napoleon. And so they began a process of unifying Germany in the 1830s. They started with economics. They created the Zollverein, which was basically a trade agreement between all the various German Confederate countries. Then, in 1848, when Frederick Wilhelm IV rejected a throne that was actually going to be more or less a limited monarchy. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing. Why is this in here? Why does it matter? Prussia is very much a militaristic state. It's very much a organized place. One would say maybe not very free. There's a lot of freedoms that aren't allowed in Prussia. However, they're incredibly well organized. And so it was very untoward in Frederick William's mind to accept the throne, quote unquote, from the gutter. He needed power that was beyond what he saw as just the people. 1862, Otto von Bismarck was appointed as the Chancellor of Prussia. Now, the Chancellor was sort of like Prime Minister. It's a different title, though, because, again, it's more of a centralized government. The government has a lot more power. And Otto von Bismarck was 100% loyal to the Hohenzollern, I think is actually how you're supposed to pronounce it. They were the royal family of Prussia, the dynasty of Prussia, who he hoped to make the total monarchs of Germany. And he was a very interesting character for a lot of reasons. First of all, when we look at pictures of him, he always looks like somebody's grandpa, but in a military uniform. This is what he looks like. Kind of an interesting looking uniform, yeah? Got one of the most fantastic mustaches ever. Yeah, right? Who, like what? Well, you know what I think it looks like? I get what you're saying there, but I always thought kind of, you know? But yeah, I see what you're saying. But let's look at the helmet for just a second. That's kind of important. Do you guys know what helmet this is based off of? Maybe I can shape this here to make it make more sense. First, let's add a big metal cheek plate that comes down to here. And then put a horsehair crest. It's a Roman helmet. They took the horsehair off and put this spike on the top of it. The spike was supposed to represent lances carried by the Roman Empire. The eagle on the front, the symbol of the Roman Empire. Remember, what did they change the name of the king to in Germany when they unified? Kaiser, which means Caesar. So we're trying to use all this Roman imagery to sort of justify our claims to a history and to a tradition that goes back centuries. You know, we are Rome. We are the continuation of the greatest civilization that Europe has ever seen. So this is sort of like that's just a popularity kind of contest sort of thing. But Bismarck is going to use this to his advantage. Now, did you guys finish the slides ago, or do you need me to go back? Or move forward or go back?
Can you actually go back to the picture?
Yes, sure. Well, keep in mind, it's also going to be on YouTube, so you can just go in there and pause it.
Like one more.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
No problem. So, in 1863, and this is where we're going to see that Bismarck was the quintessential real politic. And he's sort of the guy everyone thinks about when you hear the word real politic. Because he was like, he was a little untrustworthy, I'll put it that way. I think you guys have ever played Monopoly, like real Monopoly, like whenever like everyone's kind of for themselves and like you buy a property just so someone else can't get it. That's Monopoly. That's what we like to call brutal Monopoly. Quick aside. You guys are familiar with that, like there's a set of specific rules for Monopoly, and most people don't play with them. Like, for instance, do you guys know what happens if someone lands on a property and you don't want it? It goes to auction. Whoever is the lowest bidder. So you get, like, someone lands on a park place, now I don't want it. I'll have it for $1. It's yours. That's how it goes. Like, whenever someone lands on a property, it's supposed to sell. So, yeah. You also don't make money from money on free parking. Like, my wife and I would call what we call brutal Monopoly. We can play a game of Monopoly in half an hour. Because the way we play it is that you don't get any money from laying on free parking, and we don't use ones or fives. And if you run out of cash, you lose. There's no selling of properties, there's no mortgaging, none of that. It's once you're out of cash, you're dead. You're dead in the water. So we tend to play kind of brutal Monopoly, where it's like we'll buy everything we land on, or auction it really fast, even if the other person wants it, and then it becomes like a haggle at the end. Well, I'll give you this for that, and suddenly it's like a race. It's actually kind of intense. It's a lot more fun that way, so I highly recommend it. Play ruthless
So how do
Monopoly.
you play that to get your credit card?
Well, a credit card makes it easier because you just don't have to count it, you know?
And his dad was credit card, but
Yeah, no, it's the same basic premise. It's just you don't allow them to make money on stuff that they're not supposed to. You also don't give them free passes.
what about on Go?
You collect $200 when you pass Go. Yeah, absolutely. That's the rule. But like some people play, if you land on Go, you get 400. That's not true.
Oh, I've never done
Yeah. There's all kinds of little silliness that people do that isn't accurate. Anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, he would have been a great brutal Monopoly player, or Risk, if you guys know that game. He'd be a great Risk player. And by great, I mean he would betray you in a heartbeat. You see, his ideology through politics was you hang on to an alliance with somebody until you don't need him anymore, then you turn your back on him, you betray him. So it's kind of brutal. For instance, he forms a treaty with Austria in 1863 and invades Schleswig-Holstein. And then in 1866, once he's done with them, he makes a treaty with them, and then invades Austria. So it's like, you can't really trust him. Not for his word anyways. He's also kind of sneaky, because he uses war to add territory. Remember, his idea is to add a German state. All the various Germanic-speaking peoples in one country. Guys, Austria speaks German. They're German, for the most part. So we're going to make a German nation, and we got to carve out territory for places. So there's this territory in northwestern France that is German. It's a German area. And what's going to happen is Bismarck wants it. But he can't just declare war on France because that would make people very nervous. Remember, balance of power is still a thing. He might actually end up starting an international war. So he needs to have a reason to declare war. He's got to find a reason, even if it's a really petty one. And he gets his excuse because of the death of the king in Spain. You see, the Spanish king dies, and the heir is a descendant of the Hohenstaufens, of Prussia. And so France sends a message to Germany saying, you guys need to not allow him to be king, or at the very least, if he's king, he's got to disavow any ties to Germany. The idea being is France didn't want to be surrounded by one country. I mean, you understand, you got Spain on one side, Germany on the other. If they become one country through intermarriage, suddenly they're going to get squished. This makes them very nervous. So they send this ultimatum saying, you disavow it or else there's going to be problems. And so what happens is this messenger, Ems, back in Berlin, goes to Frederick Wilhelm and says, hey, this is the message from my master. And basically the Kaiser says, like, or actually he's not technically the Kaiser yet, he's the king. He's like, look, I have no real interest in it, whatever, it's fine. And then dismisses him, says, now get out of my sight. And so Ems sends a telegraph back to Paris that says this in effect. Well, Bismarck intercepts it, and then he starts cutting out the parts of the message he doesn't want getting to France. You see, the original message, it's like, yeah, the King of Prussia was kind of annoyed, and he dismisses him at the end, says, "Now get out of here." But he did answer exactly what France wanted. Otto von Bismarck cuts out the part where he does what they want, and basically makes it seem like the messenger goes up and he just says, "Get out of my face." So he's insulting France. So Napoleon, this is Napoleon III now, not the Napoleon, descendant of him. Napoleon III wants to sort of cement his legacy like his grandfather. He wants to be the big general. He wants everybody to like him. So he sees this as an opportunity to try to we're going to fight Prussia. Prussia, we're going to go beat them up, and then I'll be famous as the guy who, defeated Prussia. The thing is, Prussia had planned on this war from the get-go. So this ends up beginning the Franco-Prussian War. You guys know how long it lasts? 4 weeks. While France is giving speeches and they're raising their armies up, Prussia's already marched to them and is about to conquer them. They end up surrounding Paris, and the people in Paris get so hungry because there's no food coming in through the blockade, they end up going to the zoo and eating all the animals there. So we're talking about pretty desperate people, and eventually they surrendered. This is the original message. Don't write this down. This is the original message. I just want you to see the link here. So you have a pretty nice sized paragraph here, middle sized paragraph here, and actually more like a couple sentences and the small sentence at the end. This is the message once Bismarck was done with it. That's like 2 sentences. That's a lot shorter, isn't it? Aww. Napoleon makes the baby puppies cry. So what happens is France is humiliated by Prussia. And this territory is added to Prussia, and that's going to be a sticking point for Prussia and France later on in World War I. So Frederick William II succeeds his grandfather and becomes Kaiser in 1888. In 1890, in a thing that's shocking to the people of Prussia, Frederick Wilhelm II, here shortened to FW2, asks Otto von Bismarck to step down as chancellor. A guy who they thought was going to be chancellor until death is asked to step down. Now, Bismarck was incredibly popular in Prussia for a lot of reasons. And it was because of that popularity that Frederick Wilhelm felt threatened by his reputation. So that's why he asked him to step down. But the people didn't take this really well. Another thing is that Frederick William II was actually more English than he was German, really. He had an English accent because he was educated in England. His family was actually tied to that of English. After World War I, the English royal family changes their name so that it's not German anymore. There's an intimate tie between those two empires. And so, we have a new captain at the ship, so to speak. A new leader of Prussia. We good on this? There. I'll wait. For approximately 10 more seconds. All right, sounds good. This is a political cartoon from the time showing the German people's attitudes about this. It's called The Captain Leaves the Ship. Suddenly you have somebody else in charge. We're not really sure how we feel about this. So a few things about real politics. As we said, it's a practical approach to politics. It's Machiavellian. That's this whole idea of the ends justify the means. But it's also pragmatic. You do what is necessary, and you do what causes the best situation for you. Great example of that is social welfare. Now, in the late 1800s, we have an international global depression. A lot of businesses start to fail. Yeah.
I was supposed to go down to the office and leave at the
Okay. You get the rest on YouTube. So social welfare was established in Germany to help alleviate the stresses on the people. Social welfare are programs put in place to benefit the needy. So things like, you're out of a job, here's money until you can get back on your feet. You're injured to where you can't work, we'll still pay you so you don't starve to death. And we talked quite a bit about that before. We also have a change in government. The type of government that Germany has is called a Diet. It's a bicameral legislature with 2 houses, the Reichstag and the Bundesrat. The Bundesrat is appointed by the king, the Reichstag is elected by the people. So again, this is a pretty top-heavy government. It's a centralized government, meaning that the government has a significant amount of power and privileges. That's going to be important because, as we're going to see, some other powers are going to base their system off of it, and in some cases leads to totalitarian governments. Now, a totalitarian government is basically a centralized government taken to one step farther. That's where it's sort of like democracy in reverse. Whereas in democracy, the people matter, and the government exists to serve the people. In a totalitarian state, the people exist to serve the government. And so that means that the government basically does whatever it needs to survive. Does whatever it really, quote unquote, wants to. Take the Hunger Games. Panem, how it's organized, that's a totalitarian state. So, for instance, you have the different districts producing resources for the survival of the government. Does that make sense? So, totalitarian state. Any questions so far? I realize I'm moving a bit quick here. That's because I actually want to get part of the next section of notes. Because my plan is for you guys to actually watch a video tomorrow, specifically having to do with art. It's an art video.
We're going to watch videos in photography.
History? Yeah. That's so what I was thinking. No. That's ridiculous. You're going to watch it on science. That's how it works. Science. Actually, there was a really cool thing on lights that might be cool for digital photography. Talked about like wavelengths and why prisms work and all that cool stuff. Prisms work. You know what a prism is? Basically, it's a glass, like a crystal almost. It's like a lens got 4 sides to it. Well, whenever you shine a light into it, what happens is the light slows down. So it creates a spectrum of light. And the reason is because different lights travel at different frequencies and basically slow down faster or slower, depending on.
Symbols.
Yeah. There you go. You got my back. I appreciate that. Man, you guys know Pink Floyd?
Well, actually, I got to show the Old Navy and it was still. I didn't know who the guy was until I looked him up when I followed it. I was like, oh, okay. So it's war, and people were like, yeah, people are like, yep. Okay.
I kind of wondered because I've seen those shirts before at like various stores in the mall, what have you. And it's like some of like ACDs, and I'm sure some people know ACDs. It's kind of ubiquitous. There's an Iron Man, whatever. But like some of them, I'm like, really? You guys know what that is? Apparently so. It's fair enough. Does anybody ever shop at Play-Doh's Closet?
Me, I have never seen
I was wondering, like, is it actually like pretty decent in there?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't clothes there yet. I'm trying to sell your clothes there.
Oh, I'm sure that they rip you off horribly.
Yeah, I bought like probably 3 or 4 bags, like trash bags with clothes that were new.
Yeah.
I didn't went everywhere to have the tags on and everything, and they looked at the date on the tag and they said they're not accepting anymore. Yeah, they do like high quality clothes.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at some of the clothes on the rack, and I'm like, really, that's high quality.
Nice.
And they do like season wise and the location. You can like the location. It's weird. I don't know.
So basically, it's like a Goodwill,
Yeah.
but expensive.
Yeah.
Nice. I always like Goodwill. I like going in there because you see all kinds of different knickknacks, and it's like, really, I need this. Like we got a new microwave, but it doesn't have one of the little glass spinny things in it. I'd say new. It was actually ripped out of somebody's house. We paid $10 for it, but we're kind of cheap. It was still good.
I bought 5 pair of Vans. Like I bought my Vans like $10 a pair, like
Yeah.
they're like $45. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't understand with shoes.
Yeah, why when you have socks?
Well, no, I get wearing shoes. I don't mean that way. But I'm saying is like, right, okay. So I have 3 pairs of shoes. A pair of tennis shoes, a pair of dress shoes, and a pair of boots. That's it.
Oh, no, you have
Now you're making me ponder. I guess, yeah, I do have sandals, that's true. I do have a pair of fake Crocs.
You have Crocs?
No. They're not Crocs, they're frocks. I got them for like $5 at Walmart. But I'm not even saying they're Crocs. But yeah. And you know
I have
what?
Crocs.
I like to wear them. Alright, so let me amend that then. I have 5 pairs of shoes. 5 pairs of shoes. Right? My wife has literally over 100.
Girls can never have too many
I've been told.
But that's what I don't get is why. Like I understand, like she's like, well, so you can accessorize. Like just buy a pair that goes with everything. Black.
Well, we don't.
I don't style black. They're like,
Oh,
That's just
Okay.
basic.
Okay. So I need to have them. Why? And usually the answer I get, I'm gonna throw in preempt you there. Is usually the answer I get, well, so I look good. For who?
everyone to see herself. Everybody. The whole
See, that's the
world.
thing is, I really believe it's you guys convinced yourselves that you need it so you can compete with each other,
You never know.
and guys are utterly oblivious.
No, that's how
You be talking with.
Jordans. They
That
got
was good.
$50 for one.
Some guys are like it. You're right.
Yeah.
But to be perfectly honest, I know a lot of other guys who are like, admittedly, now think about it, there's the redneck Jordans, which are Wolverines. You know, they're like really expensive work boots. But that's a very good point. I thought about it. Usually I heard the expression of what guys care about their cars, but you know, no, they care about shoes. Yeah. Shoes, right? Yeah. Alright, moving on. So, as I was saying, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Harry baby. I need to see that movie. I haven't seen it yet. Big Hero 6.
Oh my gosh, I want to see the people.
My wife, I was sitting down there showing something to Harper on YouTube. That trailer came up, and she was just running around like whatever. La, 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 la. And it gets to that part, Harry baby. She stops, looks like goes, Harry baby. Yeah, we're seeing that movie now. Anyways, what is this a picture of? What kind of boat?
A bar.
It's an underwater boat.
Submarine. Exactly.
Undersea boots. Yeah, U-boats. Submarine. That's what it is. Submarine.
I knew that.
Guys, think about this. Think about this. Britain has the greatest name. Easy killer. Easy. This isn't the WWE. You don't have to bust out the chair and crack someone across the noodle. Can you dig it? What you gonna do, brother? He's on the
I used to watch that when I was like in 6th grade, and I went to like in 8th grade, and I was very hung out in Monday Night Brawl tickets, and we went to it in the Young Center, and it was the best thing ever. I still have my John Cena shirt because he's just so hot.
This is one of the things I love about soccer is the goal.
It's not soccer.
No, I was saying it's just whenever something really exciting happens in a sport, and you're really kind of oblivious to it till it happens. Like you have these moments in every sport, right? Football, you've got where like someone like intercepts, and like if you're at the stadium, someone intercepts, everyone immediately stands up. So you be talking about whatever, everyone stands up. What happened? You know, same thing happens with baseball when someone actually hits the ball. God, it's a boring sport. It's like golf, but instead of like, you know, yeah, at least they hit the ball every time. Baseball's a dude miss it 9 times out of 10. You know, and with them actually hits it, everyone stands up, it's like, and then someone catches it. And it's just like that. It's like the most defeated, dejected thing. But what's best is soccer / hockey, because they kind of have the same thing. I like soccer a little bit more, because hockey is artificially have the sirens that go off. But with it's like, oh! It's like, what? Oh my god, it's so, it's like, I feel like a dog when a car alarm goes off. It's like, what? This is great! And then it's over, it's like, oh, that was exciting. And then you just sit around and watch a ball bounce back and forth. And so it happens again, everyone's like, oh, it's fantastic. Anyways. Huh?
That's how I'm volleyball.
That's constant though. That's like a, I get this constant like feeling of heart attack. That's why I don't watch basketball anymore. So I used to watch it all the time. I felt like I was just gonna die. It's just like I can't do it. I know. It's like I used to like watch every U of L game all the time, and like before I did it, like this is the funny thing is that was whenever they sucked really hard. It's like every game they just lost bitterly, and I was just frustrated. And like I forget to watch a game, so I thought they'd win. So I was like, I'm not watching another game. And they got good. So you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sure it's you.
It must be. Clearly, there's a correlation. By the way, that's what you call a negative correlation. It has nothing to do with each other. Aren't you glad we're recording this for YouTube? You guys can have this when you're in college. You can hear me going crazy about sports. Get over the chair.
Come on, let's go.
Bam!
That's literally making vodka.
That's right. A spada! Spain. That's what it means. It's Spain. It's the battle cry of Spain.
What's the name of this section?
Section 4.
Art in the 19th century.
Art.
19th century, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Don't you start. That was a gift. Don't make it weird.
No, you really don't.
There's 3 forms of art we need to know. Romanticism, Impressionism, Realism. Keep it reading. What does romantic mean? 2 people? Why not 10?
Well, that again.
Got weird, right? Romantic actually means emotional. Emotion. Usually we refer to it as like love, but that's not really how it applies to art. Romantic art has to do with a couple things, emotion and nature. Usually we'll try to show an emotion found in nature, whether it be beauty, power, melancholy, all these different types of things. I don't know what any of those words mean. They sound aggressive. Here's a few different artists of the era. Lord Byron, of course, being a famous romantic poet, he wrote a lot of agrarian poems, basically talking about the simple joys of farm life. Again, kind of fits into this whole spectrum. Alexander Dumas, you guys ever heard of him before?
Of course.
You guys ever heard of The Three Musketeers?
Yeah.
He wrote it.
Oh.
You guys ever hear of his other major book, The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about movies for just a brief minute. Okay, that is a great flick if you can find it on Netflix. You have to get the DVD. It's not on stream anymore. If you can find it on the list, I highly recommend this. You guys know Taken?
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to feel of that. It's a story about revenge. All right. The story goes like this. There's a guy who's in love with a girl. They have a friend who is a lord, basically. A lord, like a nobleman, yeah. Our hero is a nobody. The lady is middle class.
We watch it in class.
No, we don't have time. But here's how it goes. Right. So our hero is
a sailor. And through hard work and dedication, he ends up being promoted to the rank of captain. Now, captain, you make money like that. So he's made it, right? So he is finally like, I can propose to my lady. And so he's going to. Well, their mutual friend is in love with her. And so he engineers a plot to where Guy, our hero, is sent to prison forever. So while in prison, our hero meets another prisoner who's quite old. And the reason that he's in prison, he tells him, is that he was a lieutenant in Napoleon's army. And supposedly he knows the side of this great treasure that's supposed to exist that Napoleon squirreled away, and he's being in prison until he talks. He's like, I don't know anything, so I've basically been in prison for nothing. So they agree to work together to break out of prison. While they're breaking out, because it's basically they're digging out with like a stone walls with spoons, they talk, and basically he finds out that this lieutenant is a nobleman, is educated. And so the entire time they're doing this, he's also educating our hero about how to fight, how to invest money, how to act in a courtly society, all this stuff. And as they're digging and digging, years pass, 10 years pass by. And as this is going on, or rather, eventually one day, a cave-in happens in the thing, and basically the older prisoner is crushed. And so our hero pulls him out, and he's sitting there in his arms dying, and he leans forward and says, I have a secret to tell you. There really is a treasure, and here's where it is. So our hero escapes prison, finds the treasure after he's abducted by pirates, because you know why wouldn't you be? And then uses this money to set himself up as a foreign count from somewhere in Italy. He's coming back to France, buying a new summer home, and introduces himself as the Count of Monte Cristo, where he then proceeds to set up getting revenge on his friend, who, by the way, has married his lady love. Yes, he does. She has had a child.
Oh, great. Oh.
Dun, dun, dun! It is The Count of Monte Cristo. Great book, great movie, totally full of revenge. Like, if you want to watch a movie about dude plotting and getting revenge, this is your movie. This is not something you're going to walk away with being like, man, I feel fulfilled. My life is better now. I feel like I have grown as a person. Now, you're going to see a dude taking weapons from other dudes and killing them with their own weapons.
Love it.
Actually, that was taken. That's all that ever happened. Like, Liam Neeson was so awesome in that movie, he didn't even need weapons. He just took their weapons. He's like, why do I need weapons? You got it. Yeah. Which I love the fact they're making Taken 3 when Liam Neeson said expressly there wouldn't be another one. And the reasoning is fantastic. Taken once is bad luck. Taken twice is a vendetta. Taken 3 is bad parenting. A fair point. Fair point. They're making a third one. Waka waka. And when they ask him, so why are you making a third movie? He goes, money. Fair enough.
It's out already.
I have no idea. I don't care. I saw the first one. I was like, yeah, this is cool. The second one, I really. Yes, I know.
I thought it was the mom who got abducted.
It doesn't matter. It's all the same story. Person gets abducted. Liam Neeson punches face.
It's the same movie. It's like the same drama.
Liam Neeson. Why do you not believe for an instant that Ra's al Ghul would die? Because he's Liam
Call with
Neeson.
Halle Berry.
That was amazing.
It is. She's a quality actress. When she actually has good direction and sensible writing. Hey, Catwoman. Anyways, this is a god-awful movie. Moving on. This is an example of romantic painting. Okay. Now again, if you look what's going on here, it's got a dude sitting on a mountain.
That's me.
But imagine for just a second, placing yourself in this. I don't know if you guys have ever been hiking and then somewhere really high.
No, that hurts.
Well, not quite that high. I mean, like, just kind of sort of high, like Buzzard's Roost or something like that. If you walk there, you see it going, wow. It's awe. Oh, Lord, what a day, what a day.